All right, welcome to the AdaptX Podcast, where we have conversations with individuals building accessible businesses, advocating for inclusion, or excelling in adaptive sports. Our intention is never to speak on behalf of those with disabilities, but to provide a platform to amplify their voice and share their ideas to a more accessible world. Today, I'm joined by Robert Costa, an Ironman triathlete, business owner, and father. Thank you for joining me this morning, or afternoon, I guess.
Thanks for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
So you've accomplished a lot in endurance sports over the last 5 years. Can you maybe share with the audience what marathons and triathletes you've completed in that time frame?
When I was first injured, rewind. Before my injury, I was not a runner. My wife was injured at 39. She was going to run the Disney Marathon. I told her if she went, I'd go. She called my bluff and started training, getting ready to go. I did the math on it. It was something like 14-minute miles, and I was going to get it done. Got injured shortly afterwards, so the joke in the hospital was I dodged that bullet, but then decided, what, I'm doing Boston. As soon as I got out, I found my mentor. He got me into a race chair, told me he'd help me qualify. Couple stipulations. I had to qualify. I couldn't hand cycle it, and I wasn't raising money. So we got to work. I did my first road race ever, which was a marathon, in April of 21. Qualified for Boston, and this year will be my fifth. They ran, because of COVID, they ran one in October that year. That was my first. Got to do another one in April, and we've been rolling since. We're what, 80-something days out now?
Yeah, we're not too far out. You've also ventured into triathlon to recently finished the Ironman World Championships.
Yes, sir. My mentor, he's a 3-time Ironman World Champion. I think that was never a thought. Pre-injury, post-injury, up until a certain point. But the more you're around these athletes, the Boston, I'm around the best wheelchair racers in the world, you start to realize they're just people. They're dealing with the same SCI stuff I'm dealing with. They're just committed to something different. And the more I hung around with my mentor, you can pick away at him too, just like you can pick away at me. And I said, well, what? I'm giving this a shot. So what's 2024, 2022, we set the goal of qualifying together. So my first triathlon ever was to try to qualify in Luxembourg with him. I did not qualify that year. He went on to a race the following weekend and ended up qualifying. It's just, that was time to go to work. I had another year to do it. Ironman switches locations every other year. My goal was Kona. Every other year it's in Nice, France at the moment. Had no interest in going to France. Kona's where it started, so I wanted to go there. And last year and a half been training to get to Kona. Pulled it off this year.
Yeah, I can shout out Jason. Great guy. Great guy.
We probably know a lot of the same circles.
Yes, we do.
He started off as, my mentor, my coach. Now I say he's one of my best friends, battle buddy, constantly training together. I got a text on my phone from him right now. So
I'm pretty sure you've crossed paths or are friendly with Tim Morris as well, correct?
5 years, I've lived a lifetime in 5 years. Shortly, Jason, the year I was injured, Jason qualified for Kona. So another buddy, we call him the president, or at the time we called him the president of Spinal Cord Town, Spalding, he called it a going away party for Jason, a celebration for Jay to head out. I went over his house, and first time really going out, I'd been discharged for about a month, nervous to go to someone's house I really didn't know, around a bunch of people I really didn't know, but Jay was my new mentor, so I'm going to go support him. And it was a whole bunch of guys in wheelchairs, guys and gals in wheelchairs. That's when I met Tim and Eric and a whole bunch of other people. Like I said, by that point, I had already committed to doing Boston. And then I started to hear all the crazy things these guys were doing and realized, they had a high bar that I was going to have to catch up to. I actually think Tim and Eric took off early that night because they were driving to New York to push. The New York Marathon was the following day, and they were going to push the course at like 4 a.m. in their everyday chairs.
Yeah,
before the
they're
race
good.
kicked
They're
off.
good. They're good people. Yeah, Eric came out to our 5K this past June, and
Yeah,
I've done a bunch of races with him where he does it in his everyday chair.
yeah,
Just I guess to demonstrate. I think from talking to him, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think it's to demonstrate to the general public that you don't need a fancy push room chair or hand cycle to participate in these races, that you can go in your everyday chair and participate alongside your peers. So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I go down a different avenue. There's so many avenues you can go down with. All I can speak for is a manual wheelchair user, right?
Yeah.
For me, that it all boils down to the mental aspect of it. I think people that aren't so active put people that are active on a pedestal. And I think Eric's just showing them, hey man, look, you don't need that fancy race chair. You don't, you don't need a
Right. Yeah. Right.
$15,000 hand cycle. Take that chair you got, go hang out with your community and get it done. It doesn't matter if you finish in 2 hours or if you don't, doesn't matter if you finish in 3 hours or whatever the race is, I mean,
Absolutely. Did you
7 miles
do
is 7 miles, 13 miles is 13 miles. It doesn't matter how fast you get it done.
exactly? Was your inpatient at Spalding?
At Spalding, yeah.
Yeah.
July 28th, dirt bike. I wish I had a good story. I do not. I think I've tripped and fell harder than I did that day. Helicopter ride to BMC, 10 days at BMC, I think, and then over to Charleston for a month, and then was home. I think September 5th, I came home.
What was the hardest part of that month?
Coming home. 3 young kids. At the time, our children were 8. Our daughter was 8, and our boys were 4. Through my eyes, my daughter was always going to love me. Little boys, with all kids, but you got to set the example. I knew my work was ahead of me, setting the example for my boys, and in a chair. How am I going to do this? But the bigger part was I grew up in a community where if you wanted something, you worked for it. Never took handouts, never wanted handouts, never expected handouts. And those couple of months, I realized who had my back. And even now I want to choke up a little bit. It was tough for me to show my face around town. Just the stuff that was done for me.
So you were uncomfortable going out because you received so much support?
Yeah, I'm not now, but yeah.
Yeah.
One of my mentor at work came to, I can remember him coming to see me in Spalding, and as soon as I'm building houses with this guy 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago. Now I can't sit up by myself, but he walked in the room and I just started crying, and he, hey, you were my guy before this, you're going to be my guy after this. What color decking do you want on your ramp? I'm like, Dave, you're not building me a ramp on my house. Dude, the ramp's already built. We just got to put decking down. What do you want? My bathroom was done over. The day I was injured, I already had people calling me about a GoFundMe, which I turned down originally. Reality kicked in real soon, and what I received from a GoFundMe, it just mind-boggling. A friend bought me a vehicle. I came home one day and there was a vehicle in my driveway.
It's a testament.
To swallow.
Yeah, it's a testament to you though, as much as it is to everyone else. There's a reason why everyone wanted to rally behind you and help you.
Yeah. I feel, I'll hear people talk about the positives that come out of SEIs, building resilience, all that type of stuff. I think when I hear that, I hear it a lot from people who were injured younger in life, 17, 20, 22. They were meatheads, they were dummies, and, everybody's a dummy at 20 years old. I was a dummy at 20 years old. All those lessons about resilience and, you can do more, I had already started to learn through life, so I haven't, I can't give an SEI credit for any of that stuff. I don't, it's hard for me to focus on the positive things of a spinal cord injury. One of the big positives is Someone said to me early on, people die and don't know who really cared for them. I found out.
Yeah. What do
That was a big
you
one.
what do you hope your kids learn from you and your SEI?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Before my injury, I mean, even now, what I say to them is be the example. Meaning, the boys are going off to a birthday party. You're at someone's house. Be the example. Show all the other kids how you're supposed to act. Just all phases of life. At the end of whatever sporting event you're involved in, go over, shake your coach's hand. Thank you, sir. All that stuff. Just trying to be the example. You don't give up. Bad things happen in life. It's not you're a bad person. Bad things happen to good people. You got one chance at this. Make the most of it.
Do you think being around you and maybe the responsibilities that they've had to take on to help out the family, stuff like that, do you think
that is all positive? So,
yeah.
As far as the building resilience and all that stuff, I think I had that already. It's definitely been honed. You're constantly sharpening the edge. We have chickens and goats. At the time I was injured, I couldn't get to the barn to feed the chickens and goats, clean it, put them away, take them out every day. We have a really steep driveway. I'm not wheeling trash barrels down the driveway. So my kids immediately got awarded all those chores, So that stuff's a positive. I know it's a positive. We as parents always try to make our kids' life easier than ours was or better than ours was, which I'm not sure is always a good thing. Sometimes I'll say to my wife, have we reached the point of diminished returns? Meaning we're doing too much for them, So all that stuff is definitely a positive in my eyes,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a balance that I think about often with a 1 and a 2-year-old, just like that give and take of how much independence you want versus how much support you provide.
Yes.
What they have to learn on their own. And as a parent, it's tough to step away when they're having trouble with something or they're doing something that challenges them and just kind
It's
of
really hard.
let them solve it on their own.
It's really hard, but I think that's the right thing to do, and I struggle with it. I'll, kids tying a shoe for the 6th time in a row. I'm like, give me a foot, Hey, dude, figure it out, It's, you and I went through it.
The right dose of patience and compassion for sure. Was recovery harder mentally or physically?
Mentally, I have my days, I still have my days. There are certain movements that drive me nuts that I can't do. I would say it's harder physically. For lack of a better term, it's something I've talked with Tim about. An SEI is just a time suck. If Brendan does something, I'll find a way to do it. It may take you 10 minutes. It's going to take me 45. I'll get it done. It's just going to take me a lot longer. I'm still adjusting to that. I used to be able to get out of the house in 10 minutes and I'll be planning out my day, scheduling my day. Right. I'll go here and then I'll do this and then I'll do this. And every transfer in and out of the car. And it's just, you think it takes 2 minutes and 5 minutes pass, 8 minutes pass, 10 minutes pass. So, it's been a lesson in patience.
Absolutely. Is it like resetting expectations? Do you feel like your goals or what you want out of life have changed in the last 5 years?
Goals, yes. Business owner, started a residential building and remodeling company when I was 24. Fine, mid-30s, maybe, 6-7 years before I got injured, I finally figured out what my purpose in life was. I loved work. I loved what I did. For a whole bunch of different reasons. And then one day I was just, you can't do that anymore, or I can't do it the way I used to anymore. And I'm still trying to figure that out. It's like my least favorite question is, what do you do for a living? But yeah, definitely has changed goals. I think a big one now is just, helping people, company's still going. There's a couple, my father and my buddy Jeff, they wouldn't be going if it wasn't for them, and just doing my best to make sure they have their best life possible through the business and setting the example for my kids, I mean, so I guess it's still the same, but how I approach it is different.
Yeah. You said you don't like being asked that question of what you do for work. How do you operate within your business now?
I'm just the paper pusher, the computer guy, everything I had was based off of my work ethic. I was a dummy. A lot of stuff I was self-taught, and it was just through long hours and long days and just grinding that got me to a position where the company finally had a reputable name and all that stuff. And, I enjoyed doing that. Some days were hard by design, there was a bunch of guys that like to work hard and accomplish something. And I can't do it now. If I'm on a job site, I'm in the way,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Did you consider looking for an alternative occupation or career? Or?
That's the part that gets me is, one, that's my baby. So 20 years in April. I have so much effort into that. It's that I can't let it go. I just couldn't. And you're into a career now, I would say, just go to bed tonight, wake up tomorrow, and you can't do what you do anymore. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I was over 15 years into a career. That was what I was doing for the rest of my life. There wasn't a doubt in my mind. So to pick something else is hard. I haven't figured it out yet. Hoping it just finds me someday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think about if I ever had to pivot from what I do now, because my main thing is owning a gym. So if I was no longer able to coach or no longer able to do that, but then I see people like Tim who are fantastic coaches,
Yes.
and continue to still do what they set out to do. And so finding a way, improvising, pivoting when needed,
Yes.
seems like it's still possible. And I'm sure you're still able to provide a ton of value to the company, even if you just think it's administrative work. I'm sure you can still teach.
I know I still do. It's I just have high expectations. I hold everybody to a high standard, and every day is a struggle to get there.
Yeah. When you were at Spalding, were you introduced to adaptive sports at that time, or did it come about later? We are grateful for the support of our first show sponsor. Resolution Fitness offers leading brand health club equipment and accessories for residential and commercial use. In addition to traditional exercise equipment, they specialize in adaptive fitness products and wheelchair accessible machines. If you're interested in outfitting your fitness facility or home gym to be more accessible, visit www.resolutionfitness.ca or the link in the show notes below.
They do a good job of letting you know of everything. My mind was set on wheelchair racing. I got out. I had a home gym, a squat rack, a couple kettlebells. Another community that completely hooked me up for was CrossFit Southie. My wife grew up with one of the owners, and they knew I wanted a ski erg, and next thing I knew, a ski erg's at my house with dumbbells and band. They sort of set me up with sort of a CrossFit gym. So there was a brief moment where I thought about diving hard into that, but I had committed to going after a road race and, just single-minded for a while, and that sort of just slipped away.
Yeah. What is training like for you now?
Well, actually, it's nice after the Ironman push, but most days, my day is get up in the morning. First thing I do is hit power on that coffee pot, take down some vitamins, slug a bottle of water. I'm a big fan of getting something done immediately. I used to be an early riser, the 4:30, 5 o'clock guy, and I'd hit a workout before work just to say I got something done. Now it's something as simple as unloading the dishwasher. I'll unload the dishwasher right away, make sure the kids are on the bus, and then I'll hit the garage for about an hour. A big part of that is corrective exercises, shoulders, back, all that stuff. And then I'll get into some strength training for a little bit. And then I'm off to work for a handful of hours. And the second workout comes later in the day, where right now it's either just been the bike or the wheelchair as we get ready for Boston. 7 days a week, just get it done.
Are you hoping to try Kona again in a couple of years?
Yeah, I left with a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I was hoping we could get into that a little bit. You didn't reveal a ton on social, just outside of it not being an ideal day.
As an endurance athlete, I have a feeling right about where you'll be on your marathon in a couple of months.
Yeah.
I went out there before I got out there, I knew where I wanted to be. I gave myself that window. Like 2 weeks before we took off, something wasn't right. I didn't know if I overtrained. I started questioning, did I overtrain? Do I have COVID? Then I started to think it was some para stuff. Do I have a UTI? And that was ultimately what I decided it was. And started self-medicating for a couple weeks before the trip. Got out of the water on the swim, and my day was over at that point. I knew it was over, but in my mind, you get out of that race two directions. It's either you cross the finish line or you leave in an ambulance. So the goal was just to finish it. Finished it. It was what it was. I was disgusted right away. Still had no idea what was going on with my body. And as soon as I got home, I was septic in the hospital with a pressure wound on my backside that I had no idea that was there, and had developed a staph infection. And as we talked it through, the antibiotic I was on was sort of just fighting the staph off, holding it off just enough to keep me moving a little bit. And once, I stopped taking the meds the day of the race, and a couple days later went septic. So
it's funny that we have these time goals with endurance sports and become so fixated on them that you can't always see the bigger picture of everything that it took to get there.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Pretty much the journey of getting there is the majority of the effort and the work, and then the race is just kind of the culmination of it. But I can appreciate when it ends with a sour taste. We tried to qualify for Boston 4 or 5 times, and flat tires, missing it by 4 or 5 minutes, etc. And you leave frustrated, and no amount of consolation from people and kind words remedies it at all. Yeah,
it doesn't fix anything. And people will say you finished it. I didn't go there questioning if I was going to finish it. I wouldn't have went that yet. I actually voice to Jason all the time, my wife all the time, crowds are awesome. Boston crowds are awesome. I don't need them. I honestly don't need them. I don't need the motivation. It's just, it's me against me out there. You got this, you can do this. I want to turn around and yell at him and be like, I know I got this. I qualified to be here. I want the best out of me, and I feel like I was set up to have the best out of me a couple weeks out, and I'm a 5-year-old in para world. I'm still learning, and I just didn't pick up on something I could have picked up on and maybe remedied a little bit better than I did. And if I had my best day and it was a time I wasn't happy with, it is what it is. The first triathlon I did, I had a time goal and wasn't even close to it. But I went into it feeling good. It was the best race I had, in me that day. And my wife said she was worried about flying home with me, thought I'd be a mess, but I was happy as could be. I gave it was 100%. So if I had one of those days, I'd be okay. Not having one of those days makes me not happy.
Yeah. How did that manifest during the race? Was it just low energy, GI distress, pain?
Just low energy. I couldn't get out of my own way. The 2 weeks, it was like a light switch thinking about training. One day I had an awesome day, and then the next day I think I was on my bike. I went out for a long ride and I couldn't even finish the ride. And then I went to the pool and it was basically controlled drowning. And I was like, man, what is going, it took a couple easy days, and I tracked my recovery. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't recover. There was no go. So a couple days leading up to Kona, the week leading up to Kona, I basically just slept and still wasn't recovering. But can remember jumping on the bike out on the Queen K, and I went out to do a couple short intervals, and they were actually okay. And I said, well, maybe I'm bouncing back. Maybe it's there. Just stayed positive and got out of the water, and that was horrible. And I said, the bike is where I knew I was going to make up time on I was expecting to not be the best swimmer there, but I was expecting to pass everybody on the bike, to be honest. About 15 miles in, I went, it's going to be a long day, man. Just hang on.
Yeah.
Positives of it. Nutrition's big in a race like that. I absolutely nailed it. That stuff was on point. What I expected everybody else to do, they did, except for me.
Jason does a lot of mindset and mental coaching, right? What
Yes.
does he help you with?
In that aspect, nothing. He's awesome. We sort of, we don't share a lot in that aspect. It's honestly, what we're doing for workouts, what we're doing to get stronger. I think he knows I'm good there. I know he's good there. And we definitely have our venting sessions on the phone. If I'm having a bad day, he's there to pick me up. If he's having a bad day, I'm there to pick him up. But get your stuff together, dude. I'll see you Tuesday at the pool. I don't want to hear about
it. What other organizations and individuals played an essential role in both your recovery and now your performance now in sports?
Kelly Brush is huge. Challenge Athletes is huge. They've both contributed to me getting race chairs and race bikes, getting me to the trials to try to qualify for Kona. The big one is my local community. I struggled with, like I said, coming home and how I was going to repay all these people that did so much for me. And I've come to the terms over the last year or two, maybe, that my actions is how I'm going to repay my community back. Some of the best things that have been said to me are, my kids are watching you. All our kids are watching you. And some local businesses, the Lobster Trap, Paul Robichar, a local electrician, Nolan Insurance, NE Services, Dave Ricardo Builders. Just local guys that I used to work with just came out of the woodwork and said, what's it going to take us to help you get there? Open checkbooks and not a question asked,
Yeah. Do you like being, I guess you could consider it inspirational to people? Like, I guess what influence do you want to have on both like the youth of your community and your peers?
The inspiration thing's tough. I'm a homebody. I'd rather you not talk about me. I'm just me being me, just doing what I think is the right thing to do. Not for my kids, not just for me. What I think the right thing to do is, if you find inspiration in it, then good, I guess. I don't,
Yeah. A lot of the themes that we try to focus on here revolve around inclusion and accessibility within fitness.
Yep.
How have you engaged with gyms or fitness businesses over the last 5 years, and what advice could you give to a gym owner or fitness professional to kind of help their businesses be more inclusive and accessible?
In the smaller, I'll start with races, smaller races. The promoter will say, hey, this is what we're going to do, XYZ. We're worried about you here, here, and here. And I'll just pipe up and say, I'm here to race. I'm not here to do this by myself. So I'm just going to go with these guys. And this is what my times are, and this is what's going to happen. And they're open. Okay, awesome. Is what it is. CrossFit Southie, that community, they ended up opening another gym, Strive, in Duxbury, which is by Jason. So in an effort to get Jason into the weight room, Amy and Chris, the owners, opened the door and said, hey, come in for a couple workouts. Jason and I didn't have a conversation with them beyond that, went in and they put us through a workout. I talked to Chris about it afterwards, and I think there's weeds in every lawn, right? But I think every trainer, every gym owner, they genuinely care about their clientele. He said, man, I just took 10 minutes and thought of how I could sub this exercise for that exercise for you, and just came out with a workout. It wasn't a conversation. He handled it, so it's been awesome. That part's been super easy. My local pool, I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's just accommodating,
Yeah, I think there's still a fear in a lot of fitness professionals and other industries as well, just in terms of how they can help, or maybe it's the communication piece and the conversing with someone who has a disability and being
Yes.
afraid to say the wrong thing, or etiquette wise,
Yes.
how they can help you. And I just wonder how to lower that barrier. We bias education, because that's one of the things my nonprofit does, is it teaches gyms
Yes.
those things, but there's still action that has to be taken. You can learn all you want about SEI and wheelchair users, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of just expose yourself to those environments.
Yes. I mean, I can only speak for SEI, but yet I can only speak for a manual wheelchair user, I would say. But question for you: if you're just training me, I'm able-bodied Rob. What's the first thing you say to me?
I ask you what your goals are and what you want to get out of training.
And if I come in a wheelchair, what do you ask me?
I try to figure out what you have access to. So without knowing what level of injury you have, I try to figure out your dexterity in your hands, your fine motor, your gross motor skills. But conversation wise, I just ask you what you've done in the past, what you'd like to accomplish, what your goals are.
I mean, my advice would be say the same exact thing. What's up,
Yeah.
Rob? What are your goals?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm just a dude,
Right.
If I have dexterity issue in my hands and stuff, I'm going to tell you, these are the movements I can do. This is what,
right. That piece is easy and kind of requires like open communication just between the client and the coach.
I guess to someone who hasn't dealt with it before, I understand the nerves, but we're all just people, just like you and I. Look a little different. I get it, but words don't offend me. I mean, word it however you want, but I just, hey man, what's up? What are your goals? What are we here for? What are we doing?
Yeah.
I think the bigger issue, the reason I love the thought of your podcast is I don't think the issue lies so much with the gym owners. I think it lies with the wheelchair users. I think there's a lot of people that don't do anything because they're scared they can't, or how they're going to come across. And I think the best thing you do is have wheelchair users on your podcast, so people can hear people who aren't doing anything, who are stuck and want to do something, can hear people in chairs talking about what they do every day. We're just all normal people. Everybody's dealing with the same stuff,
I was going to ask.
Get your butt to the gym.
Right. Yeah, because if you look at the statistics for physical activity levels and manual wheelchair users, they're obviously not favorable compared to their non-disabled peers. And I think it's often those self-limiting beliefs that you kind of mentioned. But then also, on this podcast, I highlight people that are doing extraordinary things athletically. And I don't want someone to think like that is the bar. Like if you're doing nothing right now, you don't have to do an Ironman.
The funny thing is, when I think about my wheelchair story, right? Awesome. I did an Ironman a couple months ago, but my first goal was a road race. I mean, if I think way back, I wanted to do a sit-up. How can I figure out how to do a sit-up? I mean, I spent months with medicine balls and a whole bunch of just trying to figure out how to do a sit-up. It's been a progression. If you get over the first fear and conquer one goal, whatever that goal is, life gets easier. The next goal is easier. At the start of things, it's so hard to get going. I think it's a problem with everybody. I think just when it comes to people who have a disability, it's just amplified. Victories are amplified, failures are amplified, but we think things are so hard that it stops us from doing it. But the more you try, the less hard it becomes. And it's not that it becomes less hard. It's just that you get more used to doing hard things, right? So what's the next hard thing? And it's just a progression through life. That's what I mean. That's what I meant when I said about the resilience I had already built. I mean, you build resilience doing hard things through life, and just keep on chipping away at it. To people who are listening who are in wheelchairs, nothing is in the gym is any harder than what you're dealing with on a daily basis. And if some guy's going to give you the side eye or some gal's going to give you the side eye in the gym, let them. Who cares? Go do you. Just get there and get that first hard thing done.
Yeah.
Once that first hard thing's done, we're built to walk uphill. We want to climb mountains. You're going to climb the mountain, get to the top, and look around and say, where's the next biggest mountain? Yeah. It doesn't have to be marathons. It doesn't have to be triathlons. What's your mountain? Go climb that mountain. As soon as that mountain's over, we climbed, you're going to find another mountain. In 5 years, you're going to look back. You might not be where you want to be, but you're going to look back and go, wow, look what I did in 5 years,
Yeah. Yeah. I heard one of our guests refer to it as like fitness is really just manufacturing adversity. It's kind of changing your threshold for discomfort. And like you said, like sitting up when you first were injured, couldn't do it. And then you figured out, modified, sit up, built that strength, probably progressed it over time, gets progressively easier. But everything's hard when you first start. I still think as fitness professionals, we can do a better job of inviting people with disabilities into the gym, because there is that stigma, there is that fear, and there is a deep-rooted belief that people with disabilities don't always belong in every type of environment. But so I think if we do a better job of outreach, and
I think you can invite people all you want, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think there is nothing at your gym that's going to stop Tim or Eric from going to your gym.
Right.
Nothing. They're going to work out. There's nothing at your gym that would stop me from coming into your gym. It's up to the wheelchair user to put their own BS down and move on. If you bump into a trainer that thinks you're less than, find somebody else.
Yeah.
Move on. It's you're responsible for you. You want to be more accommodating. I love it. I love the aspect of it. I love that people are talking about it, but it's on the person in the chair. Get out of your own way. Go do something.
Do you think the exposure that your kids have to disabilities is going to make them more welcoming and accepting of their peers?
It already has. I know it has. Yeah, I know it has. I coach youth football. I coach their football team. I was a football guy growing up. I understand what my role is on the team. I've had the conversation with the other coaches. And I hope it helps all the kids out. We're all just people. It's funny. I'm an 80s child, 80s child, 90s child. And once again, I would put this on the wheelchair user. You hear a lot of negative stuff. I grew up outside around all types of people, and, we were punks, for lack of a better word. And if there was someone with a disability, or you didn't let anyone mess with that kid, like he was your buddy just by virtue. And I still see it in the youth today. And I honestly think it's more fear from the wheelchair user than from anybody else.
Yeah.
Show the trainer what you're capable of. The trainer thinks you can't do anything. Go show him what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope I'm able to facilitate more of those interactions between people with and without disabilities, because that was huge for me. I had no exposure to disability prior to starting with Special Olympics. So it was like dove in and had a completely new perspective towards ability and disability as a whole. So
and it's up and down the spectrum with wheelchair. It drives me nuts. Actually, this morning I was at the gas station, go in, pay for my gas. I come out and I see a lady coming across the parking lot. So I'm sitting there just holding the door open, trying to do the gentleman thing. And she comes running over. Oh, let me get that for you, and grabs the door. let it go, people. Let it go. You know?
People are
Yeah.
typically well-intentioned.
Yeah.
They just don't always know how to
Yeah.
engage.
Just let it go. You know,
Yeah.
just you bump into somebody with a bad attitude, let it go.
What are you most looking forward to in the next year or two, either athletically or personally?
Still dealing with that pressure sore, which has been a nightmare. Boston's always the best day in the city. Not where I want to be training for it, but that's always the best day in the city. It was a busy summer. It was with work, you know, training 20 plus hours a week. It was a busy summer. Definitely going to have my eye on some smaller racers, but looking forward to spending some time in my yard with my kids this year. You know, we'll stay active. We'll keep it going, but
it's a good goal. Do they do any sports?
Nonstop. Baseball, football, basketball. We stopped playoffs in basketball this week. My daughter dances and does theater, and we actually have a great community, great neighborhood. Summer day, there's 10 bikes at the bottom of my driveway and a dozen kids running around. So
yeah, that's rare. That's what my childhood was like. That's rare now, though.
Yeah, it is very. You know, I hear people say that, but we got lucky.
Yeah. Well, Robert, thank you for joining me. We'll include links in a show notes, but best place to stay up to date with what you're working on, Instagram predominantly?
Yeah, Instagram's Rob Costa 977, and Facebook is just Robert Costa.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to now that we're connected, hopefully doing more together, joining Tim, Eric, Jason. We all have similar missions of making fitness and endurance sports more accessible and inclusive. So would love to have you along for that.
Yeah, I love it. And I love what you're doing. I love that you're getting the word out there. I think it needs to be heard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the AdaptX Podcast. Our effort to amplify the ideas of our guests and create more inclusive and accessible industries is futile unless these episodes reach a larger audience. If you enjoyed our discussion today, please leave us a rating or a review on whichever platform you use. And if you would like to learn more about AdaptX, the course that we teach to health and fitness professionals and the projects that our organization is working on, you can subscribe to our newsletter through our website, www.adaptx.org. Until next Monday.